when you go through a divorce, it's a traumatic event, right? It's stressful. Any big change creates stress, and stress can cause a lot of coping mechanisms. So I personally ended up with an anxiety disorder that was completely debilitating, and I was able to overcome my anxiety disorder, and that's one of the reasons why I teach what I teach, because I've been through the journey and I'm on the other side. Just real quickly, this is what we started with on Monday, and I'm gonna post a video about the teaching that we did on Monday. But I believe everybody goes through a healing journey, and for us, divorce might be that big trauma that puts us in our healing journey. Some people, it might be death of a spouse, or some trauma that everybody, I think, God has done for everybody. I don't know, done, but it seems to me like everybody at some point in their life has to go through this healing journey. And Jesus describes a lot about how to get through this healing journey. And that's where I base my teachings from. Even though I'm not always quoting Jesus, it's really what I learned from him, how to get through this healing journey. Here's some of the things we feel, like alone, and it's pain. Whatever it is, loss is pain. It's pain and it's suffering. Like, we all go through this stage of like, oh, I'm suffering now, and it feels very uncomfortable. And I believe the goal of our spiritual journey is to learn how to surrender. So surrendering is also biblically the path of sanctification or salvation. There's a lot of words for this surrendering process that we do. But what are we surrendering to and of and from? So biblically, we're taught we should surrender our flesh over to our spirit, right? Our body and our soul over to our spirit. Psychology calls it the ego. The Bible calls it the soul. The world calls it the self, self-control, self. There's so many self things, self-help. We're surrendering all of this, our darkness that's located in this part of our human being, and we're finding a different part of ourselves, and that's our spirit. And if you've accepted Jesus, your spirit is connected to God's spirit. So it's a higher power. We're surrendering all of this to, some people call it our true self, and this over here is our false self. We're learning how to do this process, and it is a process, and it is a practice. So it's what I call it's a spiritual practice. It's getting us to become, not to be, too contemporary, but in its spirituality, it's becoming more spiritual. It's becoming spirit-led. So anyway, I have, through my meditation practice, spiritual meditation, biblical meditation, it's right out of the Bible, but it's just what I have learned how to do as a practice of surrendering. And I hope to teach that in its own Zoom meetings, the actual practice of sitting and meditating and learning these parts of us, and learning how to surrender and find spirit and find God's indwelling place where we can always go to find his power. So right now, last week we started off with acceptance, and that's what I believe is kind of just number one. We just have to accept that we're on this healing journey and give us time. I actually separated from the world for a period of time until I felt really pretty healed. So I'm your guide.